Hey, welcome to the final episode of the Articulate Ox podcast. I am your host, Soma79. I am very excited to share this episode with you, episode 81. Maybe so excited she's running away. So this is it. This is the last episode. There's a few people have asked me, there's a possibility that the right guest or whatever came along, I might do a special episode. There are some people who have reached out that would be like dream guests for me that it haven't quite happened yet. If one of them rings my phone again, then maybe I'll hop on and do it. But this podcast is no longer going to be my top priority. I have other top priorities that I'm working on. It has been a real blast doing it, and I'm so glad for the people that have sent me all the positive feedback, who have been guests, who have helped me share the podcast, all that great stuff. The messages I get about what we talk about in the podcast has really been great for me. Like I think the support that I'm hearing from people that I'm surprised they're listening, to be honest with you, and their feedback has done a lot to really help me. When I started this podcast, it was about sort of a growth experience. It was about, there were things about me that I knew I wanted to change, but I couldn't change unless I really pushed myself. And a lot of that happened through this. There was a lot of unexpected consequences of starting this podcast, and I'm super grateful for that. And one of them is actually this weekend. Today, when this drops, I will be on a plane to California to go open for Elza at the Firewater Bar or Firewater Cantina in Ontario, California. That only happened because of people that I met through this podcast. Concept, wordplay, $100, stuff like that. So that stuff is cool. And Elza is my favorite rapper. So in terms of manifesting something out of nowhere and like not knowing what's going to happen, when you start something, just going in with, really no expectations, just wanting to better yourself, really cool things can happen. So I guess it's kind of fitting that I'm ending the podcast while I'm flying out for there. But enough talk about me. Let's talk about Kristen Semedo, this week's guest on the podcast. Kristen is someone who, she's from around the same area as me. I don't really know her personally, or I haven't known her personally before this interview. And she is living in the LA area now, and she's a writer-director, and she's a big horror fanatic and a big fan of horror, and is clearly interested in making a name for herself in horror. She's working on her first short film. Actually, I don't know if it's her first, because I haven't had the interview yet, to be honest with you, but she's working on a short film called Vermin that she's working on crowdsourcing now. The concept of it is really cool. I'm not going to ruin it here. I'll let her talk about it. But she was very inspired. Like, just going through her Instagram page, I was inspired left and right. She's an amazing photographer. She captures stuff beautifully. I can't even imagine what it's going to look like when she puts stuff on film. And you can tell that she's, a deep thinker and that she's got a lot of interesting things going on. So her as a writer-director combination sounds really cool, and I cannot wait to see the results of it. And I'd love to be a champion in this film whatever way that I can. So go out and support Vermin. You can go to the Instagram page, Vermin Horror Short, and it's Vermin Horror Short. It's actually going to be underneath their name to the entire thing here, with her own Instagram page there too, so you can check that out. But I think you guys are going to dig her as much as be impressed with her as much as I am. It's it's interesting because I don't know her age, but I'm assuming she's significantly younger than me. But I was a film student at one point, and I came out of film school, and we made our short film. And I decided not to pursue film like the way my friends did, but it was a jumping off point to greater things for the people that worked on that. And I really hope that happens for her as well, because she seems like a really unique voice, and seems like somebody who I definitely want to hear more out of. So thank you very much, Kristen, for being on this episode. I appreciate you being on this special last episode. Hopefully the fact that this is going to sit at the end of this feed means it'll get a little more shine, so I'll do what I can. But yeah, thank you very much. I will mention, I've kind of talked a little bit about what's going to come next with me and podcasting, because I'm not done with podcasting yet. I actually have a couple of ideas of things I'm working on. 3SK, if you're watching this, haven't forgot about you yet. Life got a little hectic, but I owe you an email about this other podcast we're talking about doing. So there's a little hint there. 3SK and I, former guests, are kind of cooking up something. That one might happen faster than the other one, but the other one is something I'm really, really excited about. Unfortunately, there are a few kinks I need to work out first, some technical, mostly technical actually. And then there's some, I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to get guests for this idea that I have, but I believe that they're out there, and we're going to have to find some unique ways to try to find them. So that's all I kind of want to say about that now. Thank you so much for riding with me through this journey. I got my Ox shirt on today to celebrate the occasion of episode 81, the final episode of the Articulate Ox podcast. So thank you so much for riding with me. I really appreciate it. I will see y'all on Instagram and all those other places, and I hope you enjoy the interview. All right, peace. Hey, welcome to the final episode of the Articulate Ox podcast. I'm very excited to introduce my guest, Kristen Semedo, writer-director of the upcoming short film Vermin, which looks absolutely amazing. Kristen, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I'm fantastic. You seem like a good final guest. When we were chatting before, you mentioned you went to film school. I'm a film school graduate. I'm assuming you're a decent decade and a half or two younger than me, so I can it's a little bit of me seeing, myself and my friends and you, and like we had a
Yeah,
we had a short film that I shared with you that actually went on to launch a lot of people's careers. So I know how
yeah.
important a short film like this can be. So how you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, I did just turn 30, if that gives you any
Congratulations.
idea. But yeah,
45,
it's
so I was about right, a decade and a half.
oh, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, this short really is for that purpose. Hollywood's changed a little bit in that like shorts don't really guarantee a whole lot anymore, but
Right.
it's just good to do it, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah. So you're a big horror fanatic. I'll admit I'm a bit of a horror wuss. I'm one of those
Okay,
people who it's hard for me to get some. I just don't like the images are tough for me. But I'm a
sure.
big rap fan. And I explain that the analogy is like it's like horror music. It's like if you can get over this, you can love it. But if you can't get over that, it's hard to love it. So I love Friday the 13th. I love old school stuff. It's the new stuff that really tortures me that I don't have the heart for it. But what
Yeah.
got you into horror?
Yeah, it's I hear a lot of people say the same thing, and my response is always, well, you're a well-adjusted person. Like well-adjusted people don't
Oh, we just
watch.
met, but I appreciate the compliment. It's
Well, no, well-adjusted people, there's a specific breed of people who love to spend their free time being terrified. And so, I had mentioned a few times in the process of doing this that my very first horror film that I have in my memory was the original 13 Ghosts, not the one with Matt Lillard, but the 1960 William Castles. I had an aunt who had like all of the old, movies on VHS tape, um, and I watched it so many times that I wore the tape out, and she had to go buy like a new one. And I was probably like 6 or 7, pretty
wow.
young.
Is that I remember the Matt Lillard one. I never saw the original. Is that a pretty intense movie?
It's it's like a black and it's a lot like House on Haunted Hill. It almost feels a little campy, like silly. But the remake does obviously borrow very heavily from that one. Um,
Did it
but
scare you as a
no,
kid?
it you know what? It did. Like I wasn't like unfazed. It's kind of similar like with Courage the Cowardly Dog. That was like my favorite show growing up too. And like I'd be terrified watching it, but I couldn't stop watching it. So it was kind of the same thing. There's an opening sequence in 13 Ghosts where all of the ghosts are introduced with these like really intense sounds. And something like subliminally like was very terrifying about it, but I was just so, I don't know, into it that I didn't care.
Yeah, you're almost probably too young to be scared.
Yeah, yeah,
Without the
yeah.
context, it probably took it at more of a face value.
Yeah, I
I for
guess
one saw
so. Yeah.
Return to Oz in the second grade when it came out, and I'm still having nightmares. It's friggin'
Really?
Wheelers.
Oh no.
That movie was rough for a lot of kids. That and
Yeah.
Labyrinth kind of gave kids a lot of bad dreams when I was a kid.
Labyrinth is a whole, I could talk a lot about that movie, but
Oh, I had a full episode on Labyrinth. One of the first 10, we talked a lot about Labyrinth.
it's a weird film when you watch it again.
That was my first introduction to David Bowie. That's what I knew of David Bowie for like the first like 8 years that I knew him. So it's a
Oh,
weird
oh my
introduction to
God.
him too.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my God.
Yeah. So let's get back to your stuff. So let's talk about Vermin.
Yeah.
You're still in the process of crowdfunding this.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
let's get that out there first. How do people
yeah.
support?
So we are funding through Seed and Spark. It is a wonderful crowdfunding platform specifically for filmmakers. They're very intense and dedicated about helping filmmakers learn how to make a sustainable career through campaigning. So I took like classes through them. I was like interviewing people who campaigned before I even launched this thing. But we're live. We've been live for almost 4 weeks. We're coming up on the 4 week mark. So if you go there, you can learn about the film from a story perspective, from like a visual perspective, the themes, why I wrote it. You can learn about our team, and you can pledge to join the campaign and be part of making the film, which is really cool. And there's some really cool incentives when you do that. So yeah.
How's that process been going so far?
I've been really taken aback by the success. So Seed and Spark says that campaigns that make the 30% in the first week of being live are more likely to fund all the way. And we hit 30% in like 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
Which I like, I'm so blown away by that. And then now we're at 50%, which is extraordinary. We only need 80% to get the funds released. So we're really close to that now,
Awesome.
which is exciting.
Sweet. Well, I'll try to get the word out there for that. This sounds like a really cool, like when I read the summary of it, I was instantly like, oh yeah, this is gonna be cool. You talk a lot about, I'm non-binary, so it's just things like gender roles or things that in some ways I think about a lot, and other ways I think about almost none at all. But your film, it talks about gender roles, and you can explain it better than I do. So do you care to discuss how that fits into it?
Yeah. I mean, it's looking at heterosexual like cis relationships. So it might feel like it's excluding the spectrum of genders, but really the
Can't do
story
everything.
well, yeah, but it's if you look at like traditional cis heterosexual couples, there's often a repeated foundation of stereotypes that they expect one another to fall into. And then if you look at other kinds of relationships, it's not that those are absent, but that there's more of like a concerted balance between like domestic labor and who does
Yeah.
what and whatever. So this is sort of taking a macro lens on the former, as somebody who is in a straight relationship. It's, this isn't something I haven't encountered before. And it's a frustration for a lot of people. But it's also really trying to look at the way that men do and don't process emotions, and how first it's harmful for them, but then it's actually has like real solid consequences for other people too.
Yeah. It's
So
funny you mentioned that, not to go too much in my personal life, but as somebody who very easily passes as a cis man if they wanted to, but is actually non-binary, I find that when I date people most of the women that I date are women,
yeah,
and like especially let's say even like recently, I date people and I received the trauma of their past boyfriends, wherein that
yeah,
they've dated like all these people who have acted in these very stereotypical male ways. They date me and they kind of get from the nail polish and when I tell them that I'm non-binary, but they're still expecting me to behave in ways that these other people have because of those gender roles. So I'm sort of, playing ping pong against something that I am like, yeah, that would piss me off too. Like, after years of me sitting in rooms with other men and being like disagreeing with their fundamental beliefs and everything, I'm like, yeah, this is infuriating.
yeah. And I think part of that too is like we're a lot of us, no matter you're 30 or 45, grew up with models, either parents or guardians or whatever, for how you behave inside of a relationship. And now that we kind of 2024 is more progressive, and like we have new ideas, and millennials are the adult base now, we're seeing like a reformation of the norm,
Yeah.
but it's not without having to work through it and fumble through it and like figure it out. So I think this is a kind of timely short film in that way, because I think we haven't totally weeded that out yet, but we're starting to talk about how this is problematic for
I come
people.
from a generation where if you want to get a tattoo when you're 18 or 19, it's like that's gonna ruin the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's like, look at us. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
is this ruining your life? It ain't ruining my life. You know, my
Oh,
life's
I mean,
going just
my
fine.
mom still freaked out. Trust me, like it was bad. Like I started getting tattooed at 19.
Well, I got my
So
tongue pierced and my hair all slim shaded back then, and that gave my mom enough thing. I waited till I was in my 30s to get tattooed, but
damn, yeah,
yeah, I was the
yeah.
real Tim Shady back in the day. It was a shame. I was like the big rave kid with like the, you know,
I love it. I
lived
love
a lot of
it.
lives.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
But so I don't want to give too much away because I know in short films, oftentimes there's, and especially in horror, there's probably some twists I'm getting. There's probably things not as they seem, stuff like that. I'm
Mhm.
not giving too much away by saying that, but the vermin aspect of it, how does that all fit in?
Yeah, so that wasn't the original title. I wrote this over a year ago now. And honestly, the push to change it really came from the fact that there are a lot of short films named Trapped that were made in the last 5 years.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an easy. I personally am a fan of like one word titles, but it's an easy one. So I was like, okay, I have to start thinking of other things to call this, and so I started kind of messing around with different things. Vermin is, there is a spider involved, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more. But
yeah. I want to talk about that.
yeah, so it is kind of like an important motif to the story. So vermin referring to critters, spiders, and stuff, but phonetically, it's also really close to the word women, and that kind of was really intriguing to me and I'm sure like no one else will like if unless they watch this and hear me say it just now. I'm not sure that it'll like so totally land,
Yeah.
but um
But
I
some things
also
only have
think
to
yeah.
land 10% and it's enough, it's like,
Yeah, yeah. I also think like yeah, making creating or pointing out a parallel between disgust towards a creature that yeah is kind of creepy looking but actually really helps the environment and does a lot of good.
yeah.
Between that and women and the way that women are viewed, I think really
That,
kind of
wow,
spoke to me. Yeah.
you really just blew my mind there.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
sit in
I'm
that for a
I'm a
second.
little proud.
That's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that name, and I think it's distinct, and I think it's descriptive.
It also
um
screams horror at first too, which is like I feel like with horror, a little bit of a dog whistle isn't a bad thing because that's the little secret about horror movies is that they don't cost a lot, but they make a lot. Because the
yeah.
people who show up really show up. When I dated a woman years ago, was into horror movies, I saw every horrible horror movie. I saw one with Robert De Niro called Hide and Seek, where he literally said hide
Oh
and seek
yeah.
right before, yeah. And I was like, why are we in this theater right now? That was like the fourth one I saw that month. So it's like, but the people show up, and she
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I was just like, get me out of here. But you know,
Isn't that the worst when you date a woman that's like, I have dated men, like I'll never forget, like one of my first, like I was 19 and I was watching a documentary about horror movies, and he was a little bit older, but he came in while I was watching and he was like, "Ugh, why are you like watching this crap?" He was like very disgusted and like very judgmental. It didn't work out.
yeah, it
So
seemed like it was
uh
doomed.
but yeah, us as a people, we're pretty intense about the genre. So
Yeah, yeah. There was when I was going through your Instagram, I found that's like one of the only times you can say that doesn't sound creepy because every time I say that, I feel almost like whatever. But like
yeah.
there's a video in there of trying to cut someone's wrist with like a fake block of ice. It seemed like I was
Oh,
dying. I
yeah.
was
So quick plug. That's not my film. I helped for one day on the second unit of it, but that's my best friend, Ariel Vida. She's an amazing director here, and that's her film Trim Season. Um, awesome horror slasher. And yeah, that was her. She was the director, but she put the glove on for an insert shot um of getting the hand stabbed, and it was awesome.
it was actually in a weird way as somebody who's sort of grossed out by that stuff in general,
Yeah.
seeing that behind the age thing of her laughing kind of broke down a little barrier in my head because it was like, okay, this is like, it's yeah.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
sort of like
funny
it's
because
sort of like if like porn actors enjoying a cup of coffee between scenes and just sort of like chit chatting. It's like it kind of deflates the entire room in a way that you're just like, okay, this is just like normal people doing stuff. Sorry for
yeah,
that analogy,
no,
but
it's so funny. That's so funny. No, it's well, I was gonna say, my other friend who's been my production designer when I've worked on other things, she hates horror and like doesn't like it, but she almost always got gigs working in horror, and that was what helped. It was like, oh, I'm seeing people rig this stuff up. It's, it's literally like you see it's just a movie in real time.
yeah.
So yeah, I've heard it help people.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. Like, oh, it's just a piece of rubber, and this is just corn syrup or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this isn't the first time you've at least dabbled in a writing directing. Have you done anything? Have you finished a film before, or what came before this?
Nothing. This is
This
it.
is this is it. This is the first time.
Yeah, I've been in art department and then props. I joined the union IATSE in local 44, and that, that was it, my friend Ariel, who I mentioned earlier, 2 weeks into living here, she was like, "Do you want to come help on second unit for this film?" And I didn't know what I was going to do when I got here, so I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do this." Um, and you know, from there, I was like, "Oh, I really like doing whatever this is." Loading in art, prop shopping, set dressing. And I just kept getting gigs from there. And so that was kind of the thing I thought I was going to continue to do. But writing has always been with me since I was younger. And when the strikes happened last year, I was like, I should just start screenwriting. So now I have a ton of screenwriting books. I took screenwriting classes for my degree. Like, it's writing has always been there. I just sort of put it aside like many, many years ago. I originally went to college for English for a little while, but it didn't seem plausible.
I was an English minor. I mean, I was a film major, English concentration. Somehow I
Okay.
haven't starved.
I know that's like really impressive. You're a very rare breed.
Well, I do work a day job. I've never mentioned before, this is my last episode. I work at the New England Journal of Medicine. So
Oh, cool.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. I have nothing bad to say about this, but it's an amazing place to work and it funds everything that I like to do and I'm flying around the
Yeah.
country. So it's like I sort of that's why I'm excited to talk to someone like you because I'm at the point in my life where I'm not trying to make it anymore. I'm fully happy with where I am. Like I'm cool with my validation, with my artistic stuff. I just do it for fun. So it's exciting to talk to somebody who's really trying to make it. And like I love trying to help people like you because I'm like rooting for people like you so much because you just like I had an opportunity. I don't know if you've ever heard of the movie Session Nine.
Of course. Yeah,
I
I love
had an
Session
opportunity to
9.
work on that. They offered me a PA role on that, and I was just like, nah, I don't feel like doing this. Or maybe I didn't have a car or something back in the day. And in hindsight, I'm like, that could
Oh
have
my God.
changed everything. I mean, I don't think that I wanted to work, do all this stuff, but like
Yeah.
those opportunities turn into a lot, you know?
Yeah, that's a cult classic now.
Yeah.
Damn,
I
that's
remember
great.
thinking this isn't going to be anything. I'm like, I think it's the dude from Empire Records is in it, like the Brendan
Yeah.
Warren from Empire Records is in it.
They shot that at the Danvers State Hospital before they tore it down.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because I remember I
that's
interviewed with them down by the Sports Depot in one of those buildings in Brighton. I remember going in there and talking to them about it, and they were telling me about it. I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh. My brother
wow.
used to work in the Mass Film Office, and when Baton existed in Massachusetts, and he came home and said, "I just read the script named Good Will Hunting. It sounds pretty funny." I'm like, "We'll never hear about that again."
Oh my God. I interned at a production company and I learned that they passed up on Forrest Gump. And I was like, dude, how do you like live with yourself after that? It's
But like,
crazy.
Forrest Gump shouldn't have worked, though.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it
Right.
made a lot of money.
That's the weird thing about Hollywood is that like it is a miracle any film gets made, let alone a good film.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it is an absolute because so many films get lost in like production hell and they just sit around forever. So taking it into your own hands is especially the start of your careers. I was a few weeks ago, I was in Jersey and I stopped by where they shot Clerks. I
Wow.
went
Yeah.
and it looks exactly the same. I went in there and it was actually the last week's episode, I mean the week before, I would go through it and show it. It looks exactly the same. And I'm like, they spent $30,000 in 1991 to shoot this, and most of that went to developing film, which now we can do with this. It's a
Yeah.
phone, and it's just like
Yeah.
possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people are going back to film now, which I'm like, I don't know where you get the money for this.
Yeah.
This is crazy. But yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I have a lot of friends struggling with that now. It's the view of production companies is even if the script is really good, like really solid, or it only needs a little bit of work, if there's a director attached to it already that doesn't have any like proof of success, like this might be their first thing that they would develop, the production company will say like, well, I only want to make this if I can put 20 million or 30 million dollars in it. But because this director is a nobody, they can't attract the A-listers we would want and need, and they can't do this or that. And it's Hollywood is so dependent on being able to predict variables in a
Right.
very unpredictable business model. So
Especially when something that
yeah,
takes like a year to make. It's like it's hard to
yes,
tell what's gonna hit now, especially a year from
yeah,
now, especially now. Like,
yeah,
I don't know I don't even know what happened yesterday. It's like,
yeah.
and like in the past hour, we like, Biden has dropped out of the race. And it's
I
like I
know.
feel like when we get off of this, Kamala Harris will have dropped out or something,
I
or
don't even
Trump would have
know.
like
Yeah,
gone to the moon. It's like I don't know what the hell. If I start talking about that, I won't stop. So I'll leave it.
I know. No, I get it. Trust me.
Yeah.
um,
That's so. So let me ask you this: what do you think are some of the best written horror films of all time? I think one of my personal favorites is it's kind of a comedy, but American Werewolf in London. I could watch that all the
oh,
time, and I think it's so brilliant, like just the way it's
oh
done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Horror
Um,
comedy is it goes hand in hand. Like that's yeah.
yeah. So what do you think are some of the better written horror movies?
Um, I probably sound like a broken record to anybody that actually knows me and is watching this, but It Follows is a script that I will read. Like if I feel stuck um in writing or whatever, I will go and read It Follows because uh the film itself is really it's quiet in that way of being kind of unassuming. And so to think, okay, well, how was this written? You really like you have to have kind of like a special uh ability to write something so quietly unsettling. And it holds up for me every time. I don't have any issues with that film. I also just saw Oddity, so I'm still really on one about that. Like I'm planning on like going back um to see it a few more times. I tend to sway towards supernatural horror. I love ghosts. You were saying earlier like a lot of the violence and stuff is tough for you.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's the same for me too. I you'll find a lot of us in this genre who are like, yeah, the violent stuff isn't for me, but the spooky unsettling stuff is
Yeah.
for me. So
You ever
so
see a
yeah,
film
if
called
yeah,
Girl on the Third Floor?
not that I remember. If I saw it,
Uh,
I don't remember it.
it's this is where I get a little nerdy. I'm a big wrestling fan. My favorite wrestler, CM Punk, started in it during like his long hiatus. He wasn't on there, and it was one of the horror movies. I'm like, if Punk's in it, I'm watching it. It was sort of a ghost movie too. I dug
Okay.
it. I don't know,
When
maybe
when
like
was it made?
10 years ago.
Okay. I'm gonna add that to my letterbox
Yeah,
and watch
so
that tonight.
well, if it sucks, sorry, I saw it 10 years ago and I'm a wrestling fan, but
It's
um,
okay.
yeah. So there's just so many horror movies out there. One of my friends told me he watched a movie on Netflix called Tire, and it was just a tire that
Mm,
was rolling, or maybe rubber. It was either rubber or tire, and he's like the villain
okay.
was like a tire, and it just
Okay.
rolled. I don't
What?
know. I can't
On
recommend that one.
Netflix?
This was a few years ago. You know what actually is one? You ever see Yule Log?
No, but I know
The
which one you're talking
Yeah, where
about.
you literally just show you the screen of the Yule log for the first 10 minutes, and then it
Yeah.
turns into a real movie. I was so in on that. I'd actually
Yeah.
recommend that before I recommend the Punk movie. But
Damn.
that was pretty. And I told friends, you got to watch, you got to hang through it, and they're like, it's just fire burning. I'm like, do you think I watched that for 90 minutes? You stupid. I wasn't that
Um,
stoned. Like,
oh my God. I just watched Scare Me too. If you like horror comedy, it's not like violent or like bloody at all. It's just it's really funny, but also it's like really I mean, speaking of well written, um it's sort of like inspired by like Agatha Christie's and Then There Were None, which is funny because I'm also writing something similar. But my composer Brandon Boone recommended it to me, and It's about these two writers who are sharing, like they're both on a retreat to each write their own script, and the power goes out. So the woman writer goes over to the guy's cabin, and they start telling each other ghost stories, and it's just it's really clever because it doesn't use, it's not like Creepshow where it cuts away from them talking about their story and into the story. It's, you just watch them tell it, and it's, that's all I can say. It's really good.
What is it called again?
It's called Scare Me. I think it's on Shudder. I think that's where I watched it. Yeah.
It's cool too because with horror, you don't need all that blood and gore because a lot of people think that Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a bloody movie. There's really no blood in that movie. It's just
Yeah.
some really freaky, crazy stuff with John Larroquette
Yeah.
reading it at the beginning for some reason. I
Yeah.
almost had a panic attack. I forgot about this. I was seeing the RZA movie he did with the Golden Arms movie, and before that they showed a trailer for the newest Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a
Yeah.
woman's running out of the house and she jumps
Yeah.
into a grave and hides in the coffin, and you hear
Yeah.
the, I literally had to almost leave the theater, and I was really high, I will say that. I remember that,
Yeah.
but I was like, I can't handle this.
Yeah. No, it's, well, the thing is, going back too, it's like it's about what you imply. It's not about what you show. It's, and that's that rule is, it's true of showing a monster or a ghost or not, or what you show and what you don't show. That's
Right.
actually kind of a big thing in our film too, just because I feel, I've seen, like, I watched Cobweb kind of recently. I don't know if you've seen that, but they don't show the ghost at all, but until the end of the movie, and I wish to God they haven't, because it ruined the whole thing. Like, I don't like the movie anymore, and it was like gearing up to be my favorite up until they showed.
Yeah.
Like, God damn it. But
You
yeah, it's
know, they
about,
probably
yeah.
spent so much time around the production table debating whether to show that ghost or not.
I don't know. That just felt like that was like full throated. That was a full throated decision. Like, it was also just
Oh,
so
okay.
CGI'd. It's like, if you're gonna do it, at least like get a cool special effects person. Don't fucking CGI, please. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was a bummer.
Even like with there's, I mean, you mentioned before the original 13 Ghosts. I'm sure that like one thing I'm into is like looking at these old movies and going, the effects they did back then are now, they, you can do them now like even easier. Like
Yeah.
that it's like this stuff back then where they're like, oh, we just use this and this. And I'm like, well, now I can get that and that on Amazon. It's here tomorrow, and I can build this cool effect here that no one's really using. It's almost like you go, everything's gotten so good, you almost want to go back to the beginning and start over with the basics, you know?
That's, it's true of every version of art. Like I said, like, people are going back to film now because it's an aesthetic. I worked on the horror comedy Destroy All Neighbors, and that was a really big thing for our director and the team, was puppeteering. Puppeteering hasn't really been a thing for a while in horror, and Alex Winter, who was one of our leads,
Alex
he
Winter
was,
from Bill and Ted's?
yeah.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, he actually pledged to our campaign too. It was really nice.
That is awesome. I just saw him in Sid and Nancy recently and Lost Boys, and Bill and
Yeah,
Ted's
Lost Boys.
3 was
Yeah,
blew me away. That movie, Bill and Ted's 3 is such a fun movie. The two young ladies, they got to play
yeah,
their kids. I don't know what they're
yeah,
doing now, but they were so good.
yeah. No, yeah. He's also just. I mean, this is just a case of being able to say, like, this celebrity is a really nice person. Like, in general.
Yeah.
But he was in full prosthetics that entire time, like on a very hot
Wow.
set. And we had a really awesome special effects team who worked on Gremlins. Like, they're really well known, and it's, I mean, if you don't like violence, you might not like it, but it's like slapstick, so it might also be easy to watch,
Well, you had
if
me
that
at
makes sense.
puppets. I'm actually, the next music video I'm making is all puppets. I did a song with Cool Keith and Esoteric from Czarface, and I'm
Oh
doing,
wow.
because I can't get them in it because I don't want to spend the money. I've made puppets of them, and I'm doing a Muppet
Oh my
version of them that I'm shooting literally right here, like when I get back from California.
That's so funny. Well, to be clear too, it's not like hand puppets. It's like puppeteering, like intestines, like making the
Ooh,
intestines move. I got to spontaneously. I was asked to wear. I can send you a picture. But I was asked to wear a dismembered hand prop and articulate it. But all of it, like it's all of it was um props. It wasn't CGI. It wasn't,
yeah.
and so anyway, so there are people in Hollywood. My point, I guess, was that there is Probably going to be a lot more of that coming back as we get tired of CGI.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
point about film, like there are times that I'll you ever heard of this podcast called How Did This Get Made?
Yeah, yeah, I think
Okay.
so. Yeah.
So it's basically it's a bunch of comedians, Paul Scheer, Jason Mantzoukas, Julian Rayfield, and they watch bad movies and they talk about them and make fun of them sort of. And
Yeah.
during COVID, I decided I was going to watch all of them. So I've seen like all like 300-400 of these bad movies they've done, and they range from 70s, 60s to last month. And one thing that I noticed is when I watch these movies that came out in like 1998, I'm like, why did they pay to put this on film? You look at it and like
Yeah.
this should have been like shot on like VHS. And you're watching like Norm Macdonald and Danny DeVito and Screwed. I'm like, this is on beautiful film.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also, sorry, this just jogged my memory too. Is I also worked on VHS 85, which is a horror, it's a horror
Yeah.
franchise that depends, but so 85 was shot on film, and I
Called
had to go.
VHS 85 and it's shot on film. You think you want to shoot on VHS?
Yeah, right. Well, so I had to go to like the sketchiest, like I worked with Scott Derrickson, and Scott Derrickson really
The director
want,
of Doctor Strange
yeah, and the
and
Black Phone and Sinister
the one with Ethan
um
Hawke that I can't think of what it's called. I did see
the
that.
Black Phone.
There's a different one that Ethan thought though before
Oh,
Insidious.
no, that's not Ethan. Is that Ethan Hawke? That's not Ethan Hawke.
I thought it
I
was
don't think
Ethan
that's
Hawke.
Ethan Hawke.
I don't
No,
know.
it's the other guy from The Conjuring that I can't think of the name. But
Whatever. You've been there.
yeah, either way, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was really,
I'm just trying. I'm
adamant.
trying to take your name dropping to the next level in case people don't know who these people are, because these are really
Oh
impressive
no,
people you're working with. Like Scott
no, feel
Derrickson is
no,
awesome.
no, no. Feel free to cut that out too, because I'm not trying. I'm
Oh no,
not.
I'll cut out me saying name dropping, but like I'm just saying that like Scott Derrickson, I don't want people to not realize this dude is a big deal. Like
Yeah.
he
Well, I
directed
mean,
one of the best Marvel movies made all these great horror movies too.
yeah. I want to make it clear too. I didn't have like a whole lot of interaction with him. The
And
most
this
that I
interview's
talked to him.
over.
No, the most interaction I had, I will say, I was shaking the whole time. I had to learn how to lockpick for a scene in VHS 85, or a few of them anyway, where someone's breaking into a house with a lockpick. And old school lockpick sets have two tools that you have to use in order to do it. And so there's a couple different methods, and I like had to go into it. And so the first night we were on set, I had to approach him and ask him which method he preferred me to teach the stunt people. And I thought I was gonna throw up the whole time. Like I felt like my core was just like tense, like I couldn't breathe. And I was like, "Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm the props person. I gotta gotta ask you a question." And then I taught I taught the stunt person with Scott watching, and how to do the motion or whatever. And then he just didn't even do it. He just like wiggled it around, and that's what's on screen. I was like,
Yeah,
and
that's
there are people.
filmmaking right there. That's
There are
filmmaking.
people that are going to see that film that also are really into lockpicking, and they're going to go, "Damn, the props person didn't
They're
do
gonna see
the
your
right
name in the
thing."
credits and be like, not hiring her. But that is the funny thing about filmmaking, because even like a producer can come in and change all the character names in your script and then claim it as theirs because they had a certain, and it's like it is a dog eat
Yeah.
dog world out there.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I'm making my own stuff, and I probably will always try. I mean, obviously, I don't have like an endless like pit of money as much as I would like to fantasize about that. But as much as possible, I'd like to have full or as much control over things, and not in like a way that I'm like precious about it, but like I just don't, I'm willing to work with what's practical, but I don't want the thing that I put so many hours of writing into to be
Right,
essentially
bastardized
changed.
and tear apart.
Yeah.
And then the other thing happens with that is the producers do that because then you don't get full credit for the script, and you don't get paid for your script. So it's not just
Yeah.
the pride of it; they're literally doing it to take money out of your pocket. Which, believe it or not,
Yeah.
Hollywood likes doing that. You know.
It's tough. It's really tough. Yeah, I know. I've been asked like if I would just do spec writing, so just writing scripts and then trying to sell them and then walking away. And like I think about it and like, yeah, I mean, if someone was like, we'll give you $100,000 for this script if you just give it to me and walk away, then like, sure, I guess. But there's just a few that I've written that I don't know if I could watch a director take something I wrote and then, writers just don't they're not on the Q&As, not
No.
often. If they are, they're not allowed on set. Like no one knows who the writer of your favorite film is, unless they also directed it.
Right. Unless they look like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and The Good
Yeah.
Hunting, no one knows who they are. It's like they're
Yeah.
just in the background.
Yeah, and as we saw with the strikes last year too, like people think writers are like in the same kind of like light as directors, but writers are also just people with families, people trying to put food on the table, like they're scraping by just as much as the rest of us. So um
Because even these
yeah, that
reality
was
shows need writers. It's like I know we like to
right.
pretend that like the
Yeah,
Kardashians are
no.
keeping up with themselves, but somebody's helping them keep up with themselves.
Yeah, trust me, yeah, I know. Yeah, a good friend of ours was on Big Brother.
Oh, really? As a
So we
contestant?
heard yeah, in 2016, I think. So we heard some stories. Uh, but yeah, man, it's and that's kind of what makes me violently oscillate between I can't do this anymore. I don't have the heart for this, and I don't know what else I'm gonna do. And which is where I'm at with making this short. It's like, what the hell else am I gonna do right now?
I had
Um,
this I made this music video a few years ago that I haven't released yet, but most of it is hand animated, so I drew most of it myself.
wow,
I
yeah,
went through this process where the same thing happened in my head as you described. I go, I can't do this anymore. This is driving me absolutely bonkers. I can't do this. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. What am I gonna do now? The first thought in my head is, I've always wanted to make a cartoon. And I just literally that kept happening. Like I was like, I am trapped. I am trapped in here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I have no idea. I have nowhere to go with this
Hey,
thought. It's
we're just
just
burning off time until the sun hits the earth. So just do whatever makes you happy.
yeah, that's kind of, I do appreciate like, I've had many survival jobs since I was like 16. I get it. I'm probably going to get one after Vermin releases. Who knows? I don't know. I probably shouldn't be saying that.
Could change your
Um,
life completely, or it's hard to know. It could
yeah,
be the biggest mistake
yeah.
you ever make. That's
And
I
that's
don't think it
well,
is, but
no, but but going back to this idea too of like fully owning something, like if I'm gonna fully own something I make, I'm gonna own if it bombs too.
yeah,
And like that's fine because at least I did it. There are plenty of people who don't do it, and that's not a knock on those people. It's just it does take you have to like every day you have to like dial away from that wavelength that your brain is on saying you can't do it. Like you have to
yeah,
physically turn the dial away. Um, and I do it every day of my life.
yeah.
But yeah, just
And
fully owning
sometimes you have to
whatever.
do it in moments when you're like I'm holding like a severed plastic finger, and I'm trying to remind myself this is all part of the dream. This isn't just some goofy thing that I happen to be doing. It's all part of it. It's like those little moments where it feels surreal. You're like, nope, this is what we're doing. This is why we're here.
Yeah, it's not just like cliche thing of like, oh, if me 10 years ago saw that I was standing in front of five severed fingers on a bloody floor of a set,
Yeah.
that I mean, there's the suggestion that I'd be honest that for a franchise, by the way, VHS I've been watching since 2012. So the day that I got asked to come onto it, that was like I died. Like that
Yeah.
was crazy to me. So
How'd
anyway.
that happen?
Um, it's Ariel again, she I guess just to go back to Ariel Vida, she's a director here, but I messaged her 3 years before I moved to LA because I was inspired by her directorial stuff and her production design. And I used it in a lot of my photo shoots, so I credited her for it, and we just stayed in touch and we were just friends. And then when I got here, she was the only person I knew, and she just kept bringing me back for stuff, and it was generous. People don't do that here all the time. She's also just really good at what she does. um so yeah, she was the one that texted me. She was like, do you have any interest in being on VHS? Because she's done music videos with Childish Gambino. Like
Wow.
she's out here, and she's just the nicest person I've ever met. So yeah, she offered, she's directly responsible for why I have the film credits that
That's
I have.
awesome. There is that thing where a lot of people, we all have to, that are creatives, have to talk ourselves into, the same thing you just described, turning that the thing on every day. But like,
Mhm.
what people don't realize is like, so the irony of this, even the last episode of my podcast is, I'm going to California this Friday to open up for my favorite rapper ever. That's only happening because of people I met through this podcast. And that was
Yeah.
I only started this last year, and it's like that just manifested out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Like there's no like, and I knew something good would come of it, but like that's a life that's gonna be, besides the 10-hour travel days on either side, that's gonna totally suck. Like it's gonna be a great middle to that sandwich of two shitty plane rides. But like that doesn't happen unless you just put yourself out there without knowing what's gonna happen. I could have totally embarrassed myself, said the wrong word the first episode and got fired from my job.
Oh
You gotta take a
God,
risk,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's a perfect mixture of risk and then relying on the kindness of other people. And I don't know what it's like in the music producing world, but for film it can go in either direction. People forget really quickly that they were once a production assistant or just somebody who really loved movies. And it's a choice. You make a choice to either shut people out or look at everyone like a former version of yourself that is
Right.
like maybe a few years behind you. And that's all that has happened to me. I feel everyone on Vermin is somebody I've met on set. And Ariel said this to me years ago, and I didn't really fully understand until starting this process. But she was like, the greatest thing, the greatest feeling that I have is putting two people together in a room that I think could do really awesome stuff. And she did that for me, and getting the opportunity to maybe do that for some other people, honestly, is like more motivating to make this movie than the fact that I just want to make it, you know?
Right. Once you start seeing those things happen, and like I had made this decision based on something that Leslie Knope said in Parks and Rec years ago, or actually no, someone said about her in the show. They said Leslie Knope gets all the favors she wants because she uses favors to help other people. And I
Yeah.
thought that was the most beautiful thing to have said about you. And I'm like, yeah, that's I'm gonna start using my favors to help other people. And just it brings a whole new light, and it just, I don't know, it
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. So my someone was asking me like a question people often ask is like if I want to network, like it's that tricky thing of like people can kind of feel when you're networking for networking, like we can tell.
especially if you're
Um,
young and don't have a whole lot of like playing the game socially and knowing when to say what.
right.
No, it's tough,
And
navigating a lot.
that's yeah, and that's real. And I think for me, yeah, it's not so much like how do I reach out to other people as it is how do I make a community of people by offering what I can offer to others that are either on the same level as me or like slightly behind me or something. But how do I mean, obviously, yes, you need some people to help you get your foot in the door. But I think this is an awful. I'm trying to think of a better way to say it that doesn't sound like I'm quoting JFK, but it is ask not,
Right,
what people can do for you. It's what can you do for other people, and you should want that. You should want that genuinely. That
right,
shouldn't be like there should not be any ulterior motives.
right.
So get yourself in a place where that is something you crave. You crave genuine connection with other people,
And
and
that's
that will
something too that
yeah.
like it's important to learn not only how to give that, but also how to receive it. Because some
Right.
people have a hard time on the receiving end of that, or like,
That's I'm not there yet, but yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
it's it's wild. It's like,
Yeah.
but and
Yeah.
even too the thing about, what my solution is to like to not wanting to sell your scripts is write so many scripts that they're no aren't worth anything anymore to you. Because that's what I did with my art. I used to be the same way, but I'm like, now it's like my basement's full of paintings. I'm like, where are these things gonna go?
That is actually a real strategy. It's just with stories mean so much to me. I get really invested in the stories I'm telling, the people that I'm writing, often because they're not obviously they're not copy and paste versions all the time of myself or other people in my life, but there's always something. It's writing for me is just another way to reach out for connection to other people. And so I just don't know how to take myself out of it, I think yet. I have quite a few, and I plan to like submit more than one at a time. But yeah, I'm a little sentimental to a fault.
Yeah, I'm a little bit like that too. I'm finding like movie stubs from like 20 years ago and stuff, and I just it's like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff when I hold it kind of keeps a memory to me in a way. It's like
yes,
the energy
yeah,
of it does sort of bring back, and it's
yeah.
yeah,
I keep letters. I keep I keep everything. I keep props that I
yeah.
used on set.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can see all the stuff I have behind me. There's a whole other office in here. Like that's this was literally the first action figure I ever owned in my life. Was this Flash figure.
Oh,
And you know what's funny? I'm gonna grab this quickly. When I was down at Jane Silent Bob's Secret Stash the other day, like my
yeah.
mom bought me that when I was a kid. I picked up this, which
Oh my
is
God.
a large version of it that was owned by Jason Mewes. I guess he was getting rid of
Oh
it. And I was
God.
like, yeah, I'm grabbing that. It's funny. He signed this, that's him, but he signed it in black Sharpie on the black part, which is such a Jason Mewes thing to do. But
Oh
like
my God.
I picked this up and said, this is gonna be the last action figure I ever buy because it's just full circle, But
That's so cool. What a
that's
sign. That's like a
yeah,
sign.
it was
Yeah.
like, and that's that sort of stuff, like I can't imagine if you're one of those people who just goes to work every day and fills up their coffee cup and like jumps in their car. Like, doesn't their life miss these things? Like
Yeah.
getting your hands dirty or just like, looking through old records, like stuff like that, that like for me just brings me all this joy. I'm like, what are these people doing with their lives? There's a story that
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld tells about I think about like maybe the Glenn Miller band or something, about how they had like their plane had to land somewhere and they had to trug all their instruments through the snow, and they're walking by this very picturesque house and everybody's having this nice dinner, and one of the band member turns to the other and goes, can you believe some people live like that? And it's like that is what it's about. Like,
Yeah. 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 It's as I get like a little older too, like I sometimes wonder, like I almost feel like this is like a Cinderella thing in that one day I'm gonna start wearing like blazers and get like an office job, and like
yeah,
overnight there's gonna be like a moment, right, where you become like a real adult that has like real adult interests and like doesn't have like an office filled with posters and
yeah.
whatever it is, and that comes from like the expectations of others, but I don't think that'll ever happen. I think I've had like one office job for like 2 weeks and I like went insane and couldn't do it. So
If I wasn't working, this is where I work for my regular job is right here. And if I wasn't doing that, I would go insane. I spent 18 years at a company and actually left because I was having such stress, mental health issues that I had to leave. And then
yeah,
it sucks.
yeah. Well,
But
yeah, and like yeah, good.
let's talk spiders. Let's talk
Yeah.
spider wranglers.
Yes, let's do it.
You mentioned obviously there's some. I don't want to, I'm not asking a ton about the film because of the short film. I just want to get people
It's
intrigued.
yeah.
The poster's beautiful though. Give a shout
Oh
out to the
yeah.
artist of the poster.
So that's Carly Graham's. She's fantastic. She works at one of the oldest and most well-known prop houses here that I've used on uh other features, but like that prop house is used by major productions. And she I met her when I was working on a film, Aporia with Judy Greer.
Ooh, Judy Greer
And
from Arrested Development and Ant-Man.
yes,
She
yes,
is the
yes,
best. I think
yeah.
she's one of those people that every time she pops up, oh, if she voices an Archer.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yeah. She's 13 and going on 30. And
Yeah.
she's another one of those people I can tell you is the nicest person on planet Earth.
That's awesome.
She got the crew a coffee truck like twice,
Oh.
which is crazy. But yeah, so Carly is awesome, and she was a natural person for me to be like, hey, do you want to help me with this? She's awesome. So yeah, the spider's like a big thing. And we were talking about CGI and how we don't like it. And this was one of the bigger hurdles that, when I started doing this planning stuff back in May, I knew was going to be a hurdle because you know, I'm not afraid of spiders, but I can't handle like wrangling it while I'm trying to direct. Like it wouldn't make sense for me to do that on set. And I was like, and you can't get them from pet stores. Like that was my first thing. I was like, can I get like a house spider, whatever. So couldn't do that. I literally interviewed somebody who like rescues spiders as a hobby to try to figure out where I could like go find them. Like the plan was just to go grab one, find someone to wrangle it. But
Yeah.
my producer, Cassie Lavo, who is also a really good friend, and she worked for College Humor. She's worked on all of the films I've worked on, and we just grew really close. She found Steve, the bug guy, who I think I'd mentioned to you, has a very long credits list
Yeah. You
in
mentioned David
Hollywood.
Lynch and Sam. I mean,
Yeah,
David. I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan, so David Lynch.
yeah, yeah. He worked on the Goonies. Like
Wow.
he's yeah. And it's funny because if you go to his website, and you click on like the film section, he has like a spreadsheet, and it's the film title on one side, and then the kind of bugs used in it, and some of it just says lots of bugs, dead bugs, like et cetera, et cetera. And it's just it's the kind of thing that could only be real here,
Yeah.
like it's but I was reading about him, and yeah, he when Hollywood turned to CGI, he stopped kind of like working in film. And so Cassie was like, she reached out to him, and he got right back to us, and he's so excited to
Awesome.
be on the project, which makes me feel really good that we're giving something back to somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a spider
So,
wrangler.
how big is this spider? If you don't mind me asking, because I'm a little freaked
Yeah,
out by spiders.
yeah, and that's natural too. Like I knew this was going to be a big ask for our crew. But so originally I thought just like a regular old house spider. We did, as the poster implies, go for a black widow. I was sort of hesitant to do that from, first of all, like a safety reason. But Steve is very confident. We've talked about it. He's gonna handle her the whole time. She'll never be not in a container. She's not gonna be like free roaming.
I'm
So
like sweating just thinking about this.
I know. So, and we'll do all the usual, like kick the crew out of the room that doesn't need to be there. Like
Yeah.
it'll be, so yeah, Black Widow. Yeah.
So, do you think the night before Black Widow Day, you're gonna be like, is that gonna be a tough night's sleep? You think?
Oh God. Like it's only a 1 day shoot, and I was saying to someone yesterday, I forget who, but I was saying like sometimes I get hit with this like existential realization that at one point I'm not talking about doing this anymore. I'm doing it. And
Yes.
that's,
Yeah.
it's like, I say horrible, but it's just like, um, yeah,
Then
it's
there's the
almost like,
moment when it's done, which is another whole existential thing. Because I always have that when something is done. I've gotten over it now, but I would get like down when something was done. I wouldn't know what to do
oh
next. And
my
it's like, where do I
God.
go with it all?
Yeah, well, God, I could tell you about that too, just from spending 12 years on an undergraduate degree. Like, I got home from all of the ceremony stuff, and I just like stared at a wall for like 12 hours, and I was just like, okay, I don't. And that's why I went right into doing Vermin, because I just didn't know what else to do. Like
Yeah.
that, this was just like the only other natural thing. But it's, I was gonna say, it's almost, that how people say like your brain can't conceptualize its own death. That's how I
Yeah.
feel about conceptualizing the
Yeah.
day that I go on set for this thing, which probably makes me sound psychotic, but
No, but it's even like I
uh,
think about the thing I'm excited about this weekend is that like I'm gonna meet this dude who I've worked with and never actually met before. It's like it is exciting, and you just want it to go well. Like it's like
yeah, yeah, I care, yeah, I care a lot about it. So in I I think there's like a level of performance anxiety too, because like in this role, like you're in the leadership role, and you don't, you want to make sure in film communication is uh gonna make
huge.
or break. Yeah, if you can't communicate to your graphics person, your props person, your cinematographer what you're looking for effectively, then it's
And
over.
every second costs money too on a film set, you know.
Yeah, we've already paid for the location, so and we only get 12 hours, and that's, that's not, we're not gonna have 12 hours of filming. We're gonna maybe have, like, if we're lucky, like 10 hours,
Yeah.
probably less.
Set
So
up, breakdown, all that stuff. It's like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah. We've got dolly tracks coming in and stuff, so that takes a little bit, and yeah.
yeah. There's a lot that goes into making a movie. There's so much, like just every little thing. And it's like you want all the money to be on screen whenever it's possible, and you want to treat people
Yeah.
well. It's just it's hard, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes it harder to critique films. I mean, I'm still like a
Yes.
gigantic hater sometimes,
Yeah.
but like every time I like critique a film, I'm still like, damn, dude, that
They
took
still
so
showed
much.
up. They still, yeah.
Yeah,
They
yeah. So
tried.
I
They
yeah,
really did their
yeah,
thing. I will
yeah.
say, your story, when I read your post about you graduating college, I literally had a tear in my eye. It's just beautiful.
Oh,
Like the way, like it's just obviously, I think you mentioned you were the first one in your, or you and your brothers the first ones to go to school,
yeah,
college, and like,
yeah.
and you put a lot into it. And it's so congratulations. That's an awesome achievement.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I changed my major so many times. Like I think I kind of alluded to this, but back in Massachusetts, like film was never on my radar. Photography was like even still kind of like a newer thing. And I always knew that I wanted to do something creative. I always had that, but I was pretty much at the point where I was putting the last nail in the coffin to all of my creative interests in favor of going into social work, which I still felt good about. Like
Right.
it was whatever, but um I never would have like, I guess it was like a worthiness thing, or like it just wasn't even presented as an option, like, oh, like other kinds of creative people go on and they do film or they write or whatever it is,
Right.
and that's not my category. So anyway, so the degree, went through phases of that with me. It went through moving out really young and like working 3 jobs and not being able to take full-time classes and then dropping out for 4 years and all the stuff that happens in between. So it's almost like when a pet dies and you're like, whoa, this is like this thing was like a witness to so many
Right.
parts of my life, and it's over now, and now I don't really know who I am outside of it. So I mean, that might be extreme, but
No, but I'll tell you, not getting too much. I had a relationship that ended not long ago when my ex, during the last 6 months, she had two 18-year-old cats pass away.
yeah,
And without giving it to I saw it in her, and I didn't know the cats as long, but I felt it in me too. You see this, it's like you see the pictures of like when they were born, it's like the person next to them that I'm dating looks like an entirely different human being. And it's like this
yeah,
cat, like it's I'm a huge
yeah.
animal person, so
Me too. I have 3 cats.
I have two. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess with the degree, it's like I also love being a student. I love being in an academic environment. I love conversation about academics, especially in film. And I had awesome teachers, and there is a safety in it too. So I do want to go back for grad school. I have lots of backup plans, and one of them is to teach. So I that's whatever, neither here nor there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I know I loved being in school, and thank you for your congratulations. That means a lot.
No problem. So say Vermin is successful, or say it just say it opens another door for you. What do you want that? What is the ideal next door to open for you? If you can manifest that.
So yeah, yeah. So actually, my assistant director is also my writing partner. And last fall we started writing. I came to him and I was like, I really want to write a horror anthology, and it was sort of just like an exercise at first. And now we have 3 episodes written. I haven't finished the fourth. He's working on another one. But I made like a pitch deck for it, and I feel very strongly about it, and so I'll probably go back to writing with him on that. And it would be awesome if there was like a way that we could get that to be like a reality. I'm also in the middle of writing a feature that actually isn't horror, which is funny. But so I'll probably go back to writing, but yeah, I would like to do more of this.
Do you
Yeah.
have any distribution thoughts for how you want to get the film out there?
I mean, we're definitely going to be submitting to film festivals. You know, Film Quest is like number one, Screenfest. You know, any festival that has a short film horror genre
Yeah.
circuit, like that's where we're going. It's tough with short films because they don't make money, and you really the intention is to exist in a room with other brilliant filmmakers. So that is where we're going with it. And then of course, like it'll be available digitally somewhere, probably, and that includes people who pledge. There is a tier where you get digital download of the film, um, and yeah. So I'm really confident it's gonna be something good.
Do you have your shoot date picked out yet? Well, you mentioned you already have it reserved. So when is the shoot
Yeah,
happening?
so it's August 17th, which
That's pretty
is
soon. That's
pretty
less than a month
soon.
away. Or is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's scary.
What do you in this last month, what's the most important thing? And besides the rest of the money coming in, but what's like the most important? What are you thinking about the most now?
Yeah, so well, what's on the chopping block coming up is we have a screen test with my special effects artist and my actress who's playing a Spectre, I will say. So we're kind of test running the makeup on her and like the look that we want to go for. We also have one stunt that we need to block ahead of getting to the location. So we are going to be going back to the location to just ahead of time for like an hour to see what that movement could be like. So now it's really just shot list, sending my production designer out to start gathering set stuff, and I have a lot on my to-do list that I need to get around to. But I'm the one running the campaign, so it's like if I'm not running the campaign, I'm like making
Right.
lists. But yeah, I hired our composer Brandon Boone, who is just like this phenomenal musician. He's if you're a video game person, he composed for Slay the Princess and Scarlet Hollow, and he still composes for the No Sleep podcast. So, kind of working
No
with him
sleep. Why
on
does it sound familiar? That sounds really
it.
familiar.
It came from the No Sleep subreddit.
Okay, that's
Um,
what it is.
yeah, yeah. So and now they're going and making a Screenbox oh my god series, Tales from the Void. Um, but
It is crazy that
he's
like we've had Twitter accounts turn into TV shows. Like, and we've it's
yeah
like I think Letterkenny was like that. And
yeah
there's like it's crazy now what can turn into what. Like even like the
yeah
Clerks example, that turned into entire he's still going back to the Silent Bob well and like pulling money out of it. Like if you
yeah.
build an IP, just keep stacking.
I know it's because there's just we need to pull ideas from places, and like the general public is kind of over remakes at this point, or
Yeah.
so yeah. Where do you go? You go where the free stories are. But
What do you think about to that point about what is successful in movies now? I heard Twister did really well this weekend. I don't go to the
mm,
movies that often anymore. I'll watch them at home or something. Like I'll probably see Deadpool, but I'm also someone who doesn't watch film trailers because they give everything away. But the problem
yeah
is I forget the movie's coming out and then it comes and goes and I didn't see it. So,
yeah
but
yeah. Well, I think I can really only speak to horror. And there's a writer that I saw recently put this the best way, that it's that horror is no longer like the bastard child of all the genres, and it's becoming like, you know, kind of thanks to Shudder, it's having like a Marvel moment where horror is stepping into the mainstream in a way that we like. I feel like a film like Oddity, the fact that it has the theatrical run that it has, would not maybe have happened in like 2010 or 2012. Um, but those movies more and more are becoming they're on demand now because there's just more people who love this genre, which is great.
yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know, there's always a crisis around theaters because of streaming. um I have no idea what the solution for that is. It's hard because in LA, it's you wouldn't even know because there are so many independent theaters, and going to the movies is like a culture thing here, whereas like
Or even the whole
in
premieres, it's a business. They have things that keep the theaters in business because there's things that pump money into them. That doesn't happen in other cities.
no, like if you, I mean, if you go to like a rural town in the Midwest, like they're lucky to have like one Regal Cinema that's like within 20 miles of the nearest town. Like
That's showing the same
in
movie on four of the screens, which was
right.
when they started doing those things. That's when I was in film school, building those same theaters. The promise was we're gonna have three theaters for independent films. We're gonna have this and that, but it all just turned into like I don't know, like Pac-Man the movie on 12 screens. Like you know,
Yeah, yeah, it's
that's a
really
film I'm
it's
writing on. Actually, I'm writing Pac-Man movie.
I there's probably an audience for it. Come
That's
on.
it's my favorite video
Yeah.
game, Vermin.
Yeah, it's yeah, I have no idea. It's a little depressing, and it's just also the cost. Like it's just not accessible, especially if you have if you're a nuclear family with two kids and two adults, like you're spending over $100 at the theater
Yeah.
for one movie, and that's just crazy. So yeah, I'd rather pay a $12 a month subscription, but and also it's an attention span thing. Like
Mhm.
people like are looking for TV shows more now than films because they'd rather watch 5 hours of 40-minute blocks
Yes.
than 2 hours of one. It's just it's nuts what has happened to our brains. And anyway, so
Well, people
um
too, they talked a lot about superhero fatigue and how that was really killing the industry. But I think what a lot of people forget is there was a fatigue that happened before that, where it's like for me, I was very into film, I went to film school, and then it was like,
mhm.
okay, this year Ali's coming out, next year Ray's coming out, and then next year the joining cast. It felt like they kept making the same movie over and over again. Yes, there are these big budget prestige movies, but it gave, I think, audiences the same level of fatigue that seeing the Avengers team up 27 times now does.
Yeah, no, horror has the same thing. Like the early aughts and like 2010s, we had like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and
Oh yeah.
like, we're still having remakes now, but I just particularly remember a lot of remakes coming out. Last House on the Left came out in the early 2000s, which actually I liked. But
Even like
yeah,
Scream, like when I was in high school, Scream came out. No one watched horror before Scream. Scream changed
yeah,
horror for years. Like Miramax
everything.
was like ka-ching.
I know it's crazy. That's honestly still also one of my favorite movies. I haven't gotten to read it yet. I have this book on it. It all began with a
Ah,
scream
cool.
about how it. Yeah.
In
Anyway,
my
came to
music video
be.
that I released the other day, I hold up Scream 2, the VHS for Scream 2,
Oh
which I couldn't believe
wow.
that I still had because they make a reference to Scream 2 in my new song. Idiot Stew, everybody, you haven't seen it. My new video is out. Idiot Stew. I directed it. I made a music video last week in my house. I made the whole video myself from Saturday morning to Sunday. It started with nothing Saturday and finished Sunday. And I was like, this would not have happened. Like, why was Hype Williams paying $1 million to make videos with Busta Rhymes when he could have just come to my kitchen? Like, he just waited
See,
25 years.
your film degree is paying for itself at this point.
Kind of is. It's like, it's no one else is paying for it. I mean, that's the thing too that people struggle with is that like we try to do things that like other that are hobbies for other people. And I had this, I was out with someone recently and she got mad and I was like, look, I'm sorry, but like, and I'm a musician too. When you get paid half a cent for your streams on Spotify, that's kind of what they're worth. Because
I
like
know.
every day people are making new songs and it's like, but she's like, well, my friends are talented. I'm like, everybody I know is talented and the people who get paid the most money are usually not the most talented. So just kind of suck on that and enjoy your pennies, I guess. But it sucks.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you've seen the meme. I've seen it circulated here in LA just because it's like LA is the place where all the small town people go to be they were special in their small town and then they go to
Right.
LA. And it's that like Toy Story thing where Buzz walks in and it's like all the other
Nothing but
buzzes
yeah.
on and it's especially because digital content, the way that it can be made and circulated so quickly, you're constantly sort of like clamoring on top of other people. It's something I'm kind of insecure about myself. Even though I'm a younger millennial, I didn't really like get into content making that way. That wasn't the way that the internet was when I my brain was still smooth. So now I just I don't want to engage. Like I loved making the ghost stories, and we're still like recording ghost stories and stuff. But I also know that that's not the like cadence or tone of like what gets attention by the algorithm. But that's also like that really is informing. Like I'll see posts for jobs in like the art department pages and stuff. And it's like we're shooting a vertical film, just like meaning like it's going to be used for like stories, IGs, reels. And
Oh, like
you know,
physically vertical,
yeah,
like this versus this.
yeah, it's an I-916.
Shit.
And
The
yeah,
finally the dream of was it what was that Quibi, the thing that they were trying to push right when COVID started, which I only
yeah.
watched because Reno 911 was on. That's like one of my favorite shows of all time. But it was
Oh
like we're all
yeah.
gonna be watching these 7 minute shows on our phone while we're at home, stuck
Oh
there for
man.
hours trying to watch Justice League Extenders Cut because that's what we have time for now. You know,
Yeah, you gotta watch Destroy All Neighbors. Thomas Lennon is in it.
I'm in. All right,
Yeah.
that's like he's like. And speaking of screenwriters, that guy's screenwriting. He wrote a screenwriting book with one of the other guys from Reno 911. That's a
Oh,
great
I didn't
book,
know
and
that.
especially if you're writing with somebody else, because they talk about their strategy for how to write a movie together, and it's like they both sit down, hand wrote all the story details. They break each scene out into like
Yeah.
index cards each, and then they take turns where one of them writes the first scene, the second one takes it, reads the first scene, makes changes, writes the
Oh,
second scene, they go back and forth that whole way. So it's constantly being rewritten. And they have their
wow.
rules about who can make changes to what, but it's like, because I'm sure you've sat in a room with a keyboard and two people and probably ended up strangling each other before you wrote a single
Oh,
word. Like
no, no. I
that's
mean, no, I
it's
haven't
hard.
actually
And
yet.
I'm sorry to throw that on
Thankfully.
you, but I just know from my
Oh
experience,
no.
I've seen that when people try to write together, if they don't use the right strategy, it turns into like fighting over like whether the character's named Devin or Devin, you know?
Oh, trust me, I'm just plugging my laptop in, by the way, so this doesn't die on you. But no, like Mick and I, so the way our style has been is we each write our own episode. It's ours, it's written by us, which is like a nice thing about an anthology. But then we've gotten on calls that have lasted like 2 hours to give each other notes on, whatever. And you take it, you leave it, or whatever. I think we've only had like one real like disagreement, and it's really just it's about how to package what it is, because he likes the idea of episodic TV, and I'm kind of like doing a boomer thing where I'm like vice gripping the
Yeah.
old ways, and I'm like, no, I want this to be a feature length pre-show type of thing, which is like a minor thing. But yeah, I don't know if I could write in a way where like I'm writing on the same page,
Yeah.
the same script as somebody. That I don't think I can do.
Well, they're
But
trying to write movies like the Queen Latifah, Jimmy Fallon, like Cab movie. Like they wrote that movie. So if you're trying to write a movie like that, I feel like you're really just trying to get it done and
yeah,
get it in the studio's hands. But if it's something that
that's
you're,
different. Yeah.
yeah, I think they tend to make movies that make a lot of money or lose a lot of money, but they're still doing fine in their short
Yeah,
stints.
yeah, they're
Um,
fine, yeah.
so I could talk to you forever about this. We're already kind of going a little long, but
Oh yeah, that's
let me just ask, so any more thoughts you want to share about the film? Any like final pitches to people or any like things you're excited about that haven't come up yet or
yeah. If in terms of like style and like what subgenre of this film is falling under, if you're somebody that is sick of like jump scares, it's scary. There are scares, but as a filmmaker, I want to make a film that I want to see, and if you're looking for something that scares you in a way that maybe you haven't seen before, that's this film. I feel very passionately about not doing like cheap jump scares and finding other ways to be, um, let's say, unflinchingly uh, disturbing. um,
I get
so yeah, I would say yeah, if like again, like if Oddity or It Follows is like a film, those are films that you love, then this is also going to be something that you want to see. And our incentives also have like if you're in LA, there's an incentive that will get you a wrap party invite, digital downloads. We've partnered with JR's Spooky Shack in Hudson, Massachusetts. Actually, it's a friend of mine.
it.
Yeah. So when you pledge at a certain tier, you'll get a mystery enamel pin from his horror movie shop. So lots of like ways to get involved and get something like really cool out of making this film.
Well, all the cool stuff moved to Hudson after I left.
Oh man, yeah, it really took off over there. But yeah,
Yeah.
well, you're not really into horror, I guess, but if you know anybody, you should send them over to JR's Spooky Shack.
Where is that
JR.
in Hudson?
Oh my God, I forget the
I
name
have to
of the
look it
road
up.
that it's on, but yeah, it's off of a back road in Hudson.
I'll have to find it.
Um,
It's crazy. I never like, I was there for a while.
yeah. Well, he just opened actually, I think last year, like
Oh,
late
okay.
last year.
I
So
haven't been there much. I moved out of there 4 years ago. So
okay, yeah. It's Forest Ave in
got
Hudson.
daily.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So he's awesome. Yeah, they partner with Fangoria and yeah.
no. It kind of feels like the horror community is kind of a small world to some degree too. That like, and a lot of these
Yeah.
things are small worlds. Like I haven't found with rap, it's like everybody kind of knows each other. It's like once you kind of get in the door, it's like, oh, most of these people you're big fans of are one or two connections away. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
it's just wild.
Yeah, well, you kind of make that connection with music. Um, I used to go to like punk shows that, these
Love
bands
punk.
had. Yeah, I mean that was like kind of the scene that I was in for a while, but there are bands that I go see that had like a gigantic projector screen behind them playing like old horror movies
Yep.
as they play, and like there is like this connection between like people into punk and people into horror. It's honestly, and it's a genre built by outsiders and for people and
Yeah.
people who
DIY.
don't quite fit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it is a
It's
small world. Yeah.
funny you mentioned punk. There's one thing I haven't actually announced yet, but I'm actually working on a punk album that I'm doing
Oh
entirely
wow.
myself. Because I'm like, I've been making rap albums for years, and I'm like, I want to do just a straight up punk album. I'm gonna play all the instruments, and like record it, like, and just see what I can get it to sound like. But I've already started writing some of the songs and trying to get my
I
voice to
love
work in it.
that.
So yeah,
You're
I was
like,
a huge
yeah,
like Ramones fan growing up, Sex Pistols, like Bad Religion. Like I bought a
yeah.
Rancid record. I mean, this stuff must sound like ancient at this point, but it's like there was a time when Rancid was like brand new and the Clash were ancient. Now Clash might as well be a million years ago. But
No, yeah, no. I used to listen to Clash when I was growing up.
yeah,
But I also, yeah, yeah. Anyways, it's good that you're branching out. That's awesome that you're not kind of contained to one genre
yeah,
of
especially as
music.
you do it for yourself, and it's just whatever pops yourself. Like once I get good at something, then it's time to kind of move on for me. It's like I've challenged myself, I've gotten a validation, and now I just take those. I mean, that's kind of why I'm ditching this podcast. Which
Okay, yeah,
actually, I'm going to segue a little into that if you don't mind.
yeah,
I wasn't necessarily planning on doing this, but I think I'm gonna announce the title of my new podcast, which I
yeah.
haven't told anybody
Mm.
before. But it will be called "Personal Problems with Soma 79,"
Oh my
and
God, that's a great title.
I'm not going to give away the concept of it yet. I'll tell you if you want after we sign off. But like, it's
Sure.
going to be called Personal Problems. I'm going to be talking to an entirely different type of guest than I am now, though. I'm sure a lot of the guests that I've had have personal problems, and probably there's a little hint to what we're talking about. But like, so that's where we're going with next. Like, it's been fun interviewing artists all the time, but like, I kind of enjoy helping people, and so there's going to be
Yeah.
a little bit of that element to it as well. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we need more of that. Yeah, I think people have a lot to say regardless of what they're making or who they're connected to. And I think that's
yeah,
awesome.
I think too that like trying to get once people start talking about what's bothering them, there's also that like once the ball starts rolling, that's when solutions happen. And I watch so many
Mhm.
people who won't talk about it, and that delays solving the problem, sometimes 10, 15, 20 years. And I deal with that with my own family where you just like, if you had just talked about this 15 years ago, you wouldn't be now searching for the words. And
I mean,
so
trust me, I get it.
yeah, it's so my hope is that after years of being that friend that people go to, that I maybe can kind of take that a little bit. So
Oh, yeah. As someone who used to work in the mental health system, I love that. Yeah.
yeah, and that's commendable because those people they're not paid what they should get paid. People don't understand what they really, really have to deal with, the realities of some people with not even severe mental health. The severe people, whatever. Obviously
Yeah.
that's a challenge, but people with even moderate, like it's hard. And these people deserve our empathy and they deserve
I
people to
agree.
help take care of them.
I agree. Yeah.
So
It's a tough job. Yeah.
it is. It's really hard. So any closing thoughts? Anything you want anything else you want to mention or
I'm just really grateful. I'm grateful to you, first of all, for letting me chat with you. It's been a good conversation. It's
yeah.
really, really reinvigorating the drive. Not that I've lost it, but it's just nice to feel encouraged. And I hope people are excited about this. We also need more women in horror. So if you want to support women in horror, if you want to support, a diverse group of filmmakers doing something really cool, this is where you do that, is with Vermin. So seedingspark.com/fund/vermin.
I got a couple friends that I should try to hook you up with. Actually, I'll tell you after. But
It's okay.
like, yeah, some people that might be of some assistance to you. But
That would be great. I would
so,
appreciate that. Yeah.
so if you want to hang on after I say goodbye, I'll quickly look that. But
Yeah.
like, all right, well, your information's been below your name this entire time, even though you can't see it, but it is there. It'll be there once I bounce down in a few minutes. This has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I really think you've got a
Pleasure so
bright
much.
future ahead of you. And it's you seem wonderfully talented, well-spoken, smart, and driven, and you got a great story.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope to see you all at the movies.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it myself. So thank you very much. Thank you everybody for watching the Articulate Ox. I'll finally get the name right. 81 episodes. That is a wrap on this crap. So all right. Later.